Hi, my name is David Eberhard. I am a psychiatrist and I work as a senior consultant, and I am the head of staff at PRIMA Addiction Care Clinic in Stockholm. I have been working with psychiatry since 1986, and for the last 13 years I was based at Stockholm County Psychiatric Emergency Ward, the last 5 years of that as head of staff. To summarize it, you could say that I have spent my entire adult life in a psychiatric emergency room. And if you do that, you will meet people who have been traumatized beyond comprehension. You will meet people who have lost all their children, who have been raped, assaulted, tortured. If you work with psychiatric emergency care, you have seen everything, or almost everything. Instead of using excess mortality, which is the only relevant measure, media for over a year have been reporting cases of death. Maybe not so strange that people start to think that if they get the disease, they will most certainly die. But people die all the time. It has to do with the fact that humans are mortal. But normally we don't see it on primetime television on a daily basis. The feeling in the population will be that everything is out of control, which will lead them to overestimate the risks. They see the plane crash coming and act accordingly. If you provide numbers of deaths each day, it will create panic. And this is exactly what has happened. The whole world reacted to events instead of doing a relevant risk analysis. Governments all over the world issued total lockdowns and curfews. The world took an involuntary pause. And the longer the pandemic have lasted, the more draconic measures governments have been taking. And in a bizarre competition where they have been trying to show strength, they have imposed more and more totalitarian legislation, actions that have made them look alert and powerful. Considering the data, it's tempting to attribute a lot of the actions taken by different governments to the Dunning-Kruger effect. The Dunning-Kruger effect is a cognitive bias explaining how ignorant people overestimate their own competence and therefore make huge mistakes. But I would argue that this can't be the only explanation, since a lot of very well-educated people, also epidemiologists, that obviously knows a lot about epidemiology, have been contributing to the panic. Instead, the phenomenon makes me think of the essay The Basic Laws of Stupid People from 1976, written by the Italian economic historian Carlo Cipolla. In this little pearl, Cipolla describes 5 laws about stupid people that explains a lot of the problems of society. He begins to state that the amount of stupid people are not correlated either to education level or intelligence as defined by IQ. He finds stupid people everywhere, even among Nobel Prize laureates. What defines stupid people is that their actions lead to bad outcome, as well for themselves as for other people. And overestimating the dangers of an infection with a mortality rate of around 0.2%, and at the same time ignoring the massive negative effects of their actions, cannot be described in a better way. We have seen a whole generation of children not going to school for over a year. We have seen massive negative economic effects on businesses with the following of unemployment and bankruptcies. And we haven't even started to see the full extent of the mental side effects that this has on the population. In the book, In the Land of the Security Junkies, I defined a syndrome I called the National Panic Syndrome. In order for a country to suffer from the condition, it needs to have symptoms of panic and avoidance behavior. The more symptoms, the more severely affected it is. The syndrome is caused by, and in a vicious circle, also leads to people being too scared to die. At the same time, it makes the population less ready and capable of handling real danger. People living in countries suffering from the national panic syndrome can easily develop the security junkie syndrome. The security junkie syndrome is characterized by you seeking more and more safety since you feel more and more insecure, even though you live under the safest circumstances in history. And the safer you get, the more things seem frightening, since the real dangers are well taken care of. For every real danger you get rid of, there will be at least 10 nearly dangerous things that will be upgraded to become real dangers. So the effect is that there will be more and more things to be afraid of. Therefore, you will get afraid. And probably you also will become lazy. And most certainly, you will act like a coward. But most importantly, if you are afraid, you will be very easy to control, which is what we have seen during the pandemic. The national panic syndrome has developed into a global self-harming behavior. But remember, it's all in your head. In order for society to get well, we all need to stop acting risk-averse and instead, in a rational way, start to challenge our fears. Remember that life expectancy rate in the Western world is far over 80 years. The probability that you die of an infection that has a mortality rate of around 0.2% is neglectable, at least if you don't belong to any risk group. If not, if you don't do that, the risk is even lower. And whatever you do, remember that life is not about living the longest, but the best. If you live in fear and isolation, there is no point in living. Don't lock yourself in and don't let others do it to you. Try to live a good life the relatively short time you have, because as a wise man once said, life is hard, then you die. Don't make it harder.